B1 family, welcome to Black Logic. Good afternoon. So this topic is not to be divisive at all. This topic is not curated to be divisive in any manner, because we understand that when we're speaking about life, when we're speaking about people's rights, when we're speaking about pro-life, pro-choice, when we're speaking about abortion, it's a very complex issue that goes down to the letter and state of law, whether it be federal law, state law, but based upon the Constitution, okay? And now that we've seen Kamala Harris and her team centralize abortion rights and speaking to women as if we're creating a gender divide between men and women. And unfortunately, certain people have been spearheading this movement to get her in office, is to divide men and women from all races, all ethnics, all religions. To piggyback that off of the women's movement. And a lot of these people, unfortunately, are on one side of the demographics, on one side of the political party versus the other. When you look at the dynamics in politics in America, when you look at the Republicans, and we're not talking about all the rhetoric, but basically the Republicans seem to be more traditional, more nuclear family, sort of a makeup that has been the foundation of America. Whereas though when you look at the left, when you look at Democrats, there's, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to lead you one way or another, has been a lot more debauchery, but speaking about the freedoms, protections, and rights of women, which is a good thing. But we also get a lot of other things that kind of muddy the waters. When we're talking about certain things, inflammatory, chaotic things that people say to gyrate and put batteries in the back of women to speak about issues that they really don't have much information on, for one. Two, that they probably have been done wrong by a significant other, a family member, or even the system to a certain degree, which had them to join in on movements that they probably wouldn't normally agree if they had a sound, foundational, healthy relationship with people in their immediate family, relationships with men and or women, however, which way they go. But we've seen this. There's other things that's on the ticket for America other than abortion, other than Roe versus Wade. We've spoken about it, family. We've spoken about housing, the rising cost of housing, illegal immigration, the soaring healthcare and insurance costs, especially with your house insurance and your car insurance, job scarcity, police brutality. We're still seeing things of that nature. International conflicts, Ukraine against Russia, Hamas and Israel, border security. So we have all these things that's going on in America, but Kamala Harris, even though she's mentioned these things throughout her candidacy, but the one thing that she has focused on with the likes of Barack Obama and Michelle Obama has been abortion, has been gender and identity politics. Because statistically, family, only a fraction of American women have abortions. So how is it that a large amount of women are now on the bandwagon of abortion? And granted, you should have autonomy of your bodies. You should have free will, free speech, free this and free that. Everybody should have it. According to the CDC and the Gut Matcher Institute, about 18% of all pregnancies in the U.S. end in abortion. Let me repeat that. About 18% of all pregnancies in the U.S. end in abortion. That's less than 20. So we have to think about that. So less than 1 in 5 pregnancy. Why do women make this choice? The common reasons vary, right? We know the reasons why a lot of women are choosing to abort their babies or abort the fetus or abort the embryo or abort the part when the life itself is viable. We know these reasons. Health complications, instance of rape or incest. And the one thing that you really don't hear people stating is economic constraints. Think about that. A lot of women, a lot of people, especially if the man and women is together, they don't have the finances in order to have a baby, but let alone they're still going to, tango, so to speak. But a significant portion, around 40%, cite economic reasons. I want you to think about that. 40% of women out of the 18% who have had abortions cited the reason for their abortions because of economic reasons. So why is Kamala Harris, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama is causing a gender divide, and they're using the likes of Roe versus Wade and abortions at the center of it as the foundation of the candidacy? As I told you before, family, when we get into the what side are you on, pro-life or pro-choice, I told you I am pro-responsibility. I am pro-responsibility. When when a woman and a man lays down to have fun or procreate, it is their choice, but it's also their responsibility. What happens next? And I don't want to dive too deep about my thoughts with that because it can get a little muddy when I speak about it, okay? Because we understand this is a very complex issue. Now, while another 30% is into timing and personal readiness, okay? Some people are just not ready. So you have 40% cited economic reasons, while another 30% stating, the timing is not right. And I also have other personal reasons why I don't want to have a child right now. But we're talking about 40% are talking about economic reasons. So others may be due to the dynamics in their relationship, including people who are unstable partners or insufficient family support. Because when a woman has a baby, she needs a support system, right? Even if the man is in her life, he's there in the house or he's not, but he's financially or physically helping her. They need a network. As they stated, it takes a village to raise a child. Because these are all real issues, but they don't exist in a vacuum that's isolated from our national struggles. So I want to bring this up to you guys because showing what I showed the other day with Michelle Obama when she gave this speech, I just want to refresh your memory of some of the rhetoric that was spoken here.
If he doesn't view you as his equal or relevant to his ambitions, I promise you, he will not think about you when he gets into the Oval Office. Let me take a minute to help folks, especially the men in our lives, to get a better sense of what could happen if we keep dismantling parts of our reproductive care system piece by piece, as Trump intends to do. There are good reasons why so many women and physicians are horrified by what's happened since Donald Trump's justices overturned Roe v. Wade. We're seeing women scrambling across state lines to get the care they need. Just this week, a major medical journal reported that after Roe was overturned, infant mortality in this country rose, in large part because women are being forced to carry fetuses that won't survive to term. One woman spent 22 days in jail on murder charges after she miscarried in her own bathroom. So just imagine the profound effects for all of us if Donald Trump wins this election. In states that are already putting abortion bans into effect, his FDA could further outlaw patchwork systems of telehealth appointments and mail-order pills, thereby eliminating the last remaining protections for women in those states. He could take actions that effectively ban abortion nationwide, which would put all of us in danger, no matter what state we live in. We will see more doctors hesitating or shying away from providing life-saving treatments because they are worried about being arrested. Please do not hand our fates over to the likes of Trump, who knows nothing about us, who has shown.
So I'm not going to let the rhetoric continue. You know, here on Black Logic Family, I tend to give you guys the unadulterated, unbiased truth. So that's what I will do. So when we're speaking about abortions and women's rights of autonomy, pro-choice, we first have to dive back a little bit. And we have to speak about this young, insane young lady here, Margaret Sanger. I know you guys heard about her. I wish I can blow this up for you. This is coming from the University of Chicago. So bear with me as I read a little bit, because you guys need to be aware of Margaret Sanger, because essentially abortions really started with her. The legalizing of abortions really started with her movement. And her movement was not a just movement. Her movement was not a pro-choice movement. It's more dire than that. Sexuality in the United States of America is not the same as seen in the 1800s. Today, a large proportion of women in the country began utilizing a form of contraception at a young age in order to enjoy the pleasures of sex without worrying about having to halt one education or career in order to be a mother. However, in the 1800s and early 1900s, usage of contraceptives was far less common due to laws prohibiting the distribution of contraceptives or simply information about contraceptives via mail or in other non-approved settings. Margaret Sanger sought to change this. Margaret Sanger is largely renowned for her work as an ambitious feminist leading the birth control revolution in America and largely around the world. However, Sanger's motivation behind this work had dark roots in racism and eugenics, demonstrating the importance of acknowledging the dangerous rhetoric of her work and how it may have impacted social groups around her, okay? It goes on to state, however, Sanger's problematic viewpoints and standards surrounding birth control did not stop at eugenics targeting at poor people living in city slums. Sanger was also an important figure in linking birth control to reducing the population of who? African Americans, aka Black Americans. Now, and I expect everyone, if you guys like reading, if you like information backed by evidence and facts, go in to Amazon, whatever bookstore you go to, and reach out and get the Medical Apartheid book, The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to Present. Now, Harriet Washington describes that while Sanger was a complex, passionate woman that shaped American reproductive policies by instigating the fall of the common stock laws, pushing the developing of the birth control pill, and founding what we now know today as Planned Parenthood, she did so in ways that blatantly harmed the Black American population. Specifically, Sanger's American Birth Control League closely collaborated with the Clinical Research Bureau to form the Birth Control Federation of America in 1939. So the BFCA quickly planned what they labeled the Negro Project, a project that, while claiming to be established for the benefit of the colored people, resulted in the formation of family planning centers that were found to be problematic for many reasons. First, these clinics were likely erected as an experimental clinics aiming to find the best way to reduce or eliminate the Black population in regions densely populated by Black Americans. Additionally, these clinics appeared to be motivated by the ability to test new birth control methods on less valuable population. The BFCA, which Sanger was a key figure in running, demonstrated clear racial motivations in erecting these clinics and took actions that would bias the medical field against Black Americans for decades to come. This is so rich that people do not understand about Planned Parenthood. But you don't hear Kamala Harris, you don't hear Barack Obama, you don't hear Michelle Obama speak about Margaret Sanger and what she was really doing and what these Planned Parenthood was really all about, that it targeted a specific group of people, okay? I know I'm giving you guys a history lesson. I'm not trying to do that, but I'm trying to build a base here, okay? And you guys can read this along. And this information is coming from the Planned Parenthood website, family. Okay, I'm giving you two sources, the University of Chicago, and I'm actually going to the Planned Parenthood website. It said Sanger believed in eugenics and inherently racist an ableist ideology that labels certain people unfit to have children. Eugenics is the theory, let me get rid of this, that society can be improved through planned breeding for desirable traits like intelligence and industriousness. In the early 20th century, eugenics ideas were popular among highly educated, privileged, and mostly white Americans. Margaret Sanger pronounced her beliefs in an alignment with the eugenics movement many times in her writings, especially in the scientific journal Birth Control Review. At times, Sanger tried to argue for eugenics that was not applied based on race or religion. But in a society built on the belief of white supremacy, physical and mental fitness are always judged based on race. Eugenics, therefore, is inherently racist. She held beliefs that from the very beginning undermined her movement for reproductive freedom and caused her to harm countless people. And when they talk about countless people, family, they're speaking about countless black people. Singer was so intent on her mission to advocate for birth control that she chose to align herself with ideas and organizations, okay, that were dealing in white supremacy. In 1926, she spoke to the Women's Auxiliary of the KKK at a rally in New Jersey to promote birth control methods. Sanger endorsed the 1927 Buck versus Bill decision, in which the U.S. Supreme Court ruled the states could forcibly sterilize people deemed unfit without their consent and sometimes without their knowledge. Listen to this again. This is back in the the late 1920s. Buck versus Bill decision, in which the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that states could forcibly sterilize people deemed unfit without their consent and sometimes without their knowledge. The same thing that the white colonial powers did in Kenya and sterilizing a lot of the Kenyan women. I think it was actually done back in the 70s or 80s, which was a form of eugenics. You guys can look that up as well, okay? The acceptance of this decision by Sanger and other thought leaders laid the foundation for tens of thousands of people to be sterilized, often against their will. As a result of these choices, the reproductive rights movements in many cases deepened racial injustice in the healthcare system. The field of modern gynecology was founded by Marion Sims, who in the mid-1800s repeatedly and forcibly performed invasive experiments on enslaved black women without anesthesia, okay? In 1939, Sanger became what was called the Negro Project, along black leaders like W.E.B. Du Bois, Mary McLeod Bethune, and Reverend Adam Clayton Powell. The mission of the Negro Project was to put black doctors and nurses in charge of birth control clinics to reduce the mistrust of a racist healthcare system. So again, the same thing I learned when I went to Ghana. In order for black people to accept things that the dominant society put forth, they use black people in order to do so. You see what I'm saying? When the white colonial powers, when the Dutch, the British, and all these people went to Ghana in order to eradicate them of their land, their resources, etc., they were trying to teach the gospel, Christianity, but the Ghanaian people wouldn't accept it. So they recruited 2 Ghanaians and sent them to Europe and train and teach them up on Christianity and brought them back. And then now, today, we understand that Ghana is a mostly Christian country. I know you get the hallmarks of that. Nonetheless, Sanger lost control of the project, and black women were sent to white doctors for birth control and follow-up appointments, deepening the racist and paternalistic problems of healthcare in the South. Continuing to this day, black women's experiences and pain are too often dismissed or ignored by doctors and other healthcare providers, which alongside historical dehumanization of black people contributes to staggering and affordable disparities in health outcomes. I know I did quite a bit of reading there, family, but believe me, it's needed because we have to build a foundation on understanding why Kamala Harris thinks that women in general, but when Michelle Obama was speaking, as though they were speaking mostly to a predominantly black American crowd. Okay, I'm pretty sure there was other, ethnics and groups of races there as well, but you can just hear the tone and the language. That is my gathering of it. You may see it differently. Okay, now Roe versus Wade. I'm gonna kind of just jump through this a little bit. I know you guys are somewhat familiar with it, but it states here in 1973 that unduly restrictive state regulation of abortion is unconstitutional. So some Supreme Court justices got together like, okay, this is unconstitutional according to the 14th Amendment of privacy rights. Don't ask me how they came to that conclusion, but that is the conclusion that they came to. It say that the state regulation of abortion is unconstitutional. In a majority opinion written by Justice Harry A. Blackmun, the court held that a set of Texas statutes criminalizing abortion in most instances violated a constitutional right to privacy. Now, if anyone can help me to understand how your constitutional right to privacy, which is the forbearance of government invading on your privacy, meaning that they can have cameras inside your home. Now, they in public places, they can put cameras wherever they want, but cameras inside your home or trying to spy on you through your TV, etc., that is not allowed. That, as far as I'm concerned, that's a right to privacy. But I could be wrong because they also bled this into the right to abort. Nonetheless, which is found to be implicit in the liberty guarantee of the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Okay, so we had to go over to the Constitution, Congress.gov, so we can read the 14th Amendment, the excerpt itself for ourselves. It states here that, again, all persons born of naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges of the immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Now, family, I don't understand the right of privacy when it comes to the Constitution in the relation to abortions, and that the federal government needs to come in and state that, okay, abortions fall under the right of privacy. Maybe some lawyer or someone who dealt with this before is more knowledgeable. I just don't know how they link. I just don't know how they connect, okay? And you can come and read some of the other amendments that they have here that may pertain to it or links to it. But again, don't forget, a lot of the Constitution was written such a long time ago, right? 1700s. This is a very old document that they were not thinking about abortions. They was not really thinking about people aborting their baby because they had, never mind. I won't go there. I won't go there because they're already going to strike the video anyway. But I just wanted to show you guys that. And here's the thing that I keep hearing about Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump did admit that he is pro-life. And, you know, people on the right seems to be more pro-life. People on the left seems to be more pro-choice. But I've met conservatives who are pro-choice, and I've met, liberals who are pro-life. So it goes which way. Everyone is different, okay? Just because you pertain yourself with a particular party doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything that party is stating. I get it. I get it. Now, the one thing I keep hearing is that Trump has banned abortion. He has not. The only thing he has done is took it out the federal jurisdiction and left it up to the states to decide. That means when you guys go and vote on a state level, you can vote in abortion or you can vote out abortion. It's your choice, okay? So again, that's why the Supreme Court didn't even understand why we've always been dealing with Roe versus Wade. The right to privacy of what? The right to privacy from government, not the right of privacy that, oh, okay, you can get an abortion. And the government doesn't have nothing to do with it. But the government is the one who is allowing it, right? Because again, he took it away from the federal jurisdiction and left it up to the states where people have more power with their vote, let alone the federal elections. I digress. So I want to play you this clip of J.D. Vance on the Joe Rogan podcast and how they break down abortion. And I like Joe Rogan's stance on this because I'm agreeant. Women should have full autonomy of their bodies. They should do whatever they essentially want. And no men should be involved in the decision making. But I do have commentary on that as well. But let's get into the clip very quickly so you guys know exactly where I'm coming from.
Deeply concerned with in this country. And it seems like for men, it's the economy. That seems like the primary thing that people are concerned with. And it seems like for a lot of women, it's abortion.
Sure.
Abortion and Roe v. Wade is a big concern.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm correct, your position, and this is what they wanted when they overturned Roe v. Wade, they wanted to leave it in control of the states. Is this your position?
Yeah. So what President Trump has said, and what I've said, is abortion is now a matter for state legislatures, state voters to determine. And I mean, one, that's always what the argument was, right? If Roe versus Wade goes away, then the state legislatures, the state populations are going to make each individual abortion decision the same way that, like, California has different laws on a whole host of subjects than Alabama does. The idea is that, yeah, California would make its own abortion policy, Alabama would make its own abortion policy. And so there's a basic sort of principle of federalism at work there. But I also think that, knowing Donald Trump well, I think he's motivated also by a desire for us to just stop having a culture war over this particular issue and to let the voters in these states make these decisions while the national government focuses on things like lowering the cost of groceries and lowering the cost of housing and securing the southern border. And I think there's actually some great wisdom in that because, think about this. Abortion has not really been a political issue for 50 years. Now, we say that it is, and obviously we disagreed about it and people fought about it. It was always something the Supreme Court said, this is the way it is. There's no political decision making. Every European nation has made abortion policy democratically. And that's what Donald Trump is saying. Do what every European nation has done. Let the voters decide what their abortion policy is going to be. And we're going to focus the national government on different things. And I say this as somebody who, I genuinely, want people to choose life. And I'm, a big believer in families. And I think, having children has been like a revelatory experience for me. And I want our country to be more.
So that's kind of the gist of it, family. But I'm going to do part 2 of this in just a bit. I'll see you guys in a while.